Hello, my name is Kathleen Flynn from the law offices of Kathleen M. Flynn LLC in Decatur, Georgia. We assist adults and children in obtaining SSI and SSDI benefits, including disabled widows and widowers, adult child benefits, child insurance benefits, and we help veterans obtain service-connected VA benefits. Today I'm going to be discussing one of the medical listings for lupus. We've had clients go undiagnosed for years and they later found out they had lupus. Now, there are two ways you can obtain Social Security disability if you have lupus, and one of them is by meeting the requirements of a medical listing. And the medical listing lays out what the requirements are. Mainly they focus on what organs or body systems are impacted by lupus. And the Social Security listings, which you can Google, are broken down by body systems. For example, there's a section that includes the skin, and lupus can affect the skin. That's one body system they consider. The heart, so they look at the cardiac system. Lupus can also affect the kidneys, so there's a section called genitourinary system. So Social Security is looking to see if it affects that system. Lupus can also affect the joints. So there's a section that includes various joints in the body. That's another system. And the blood. Lupus can affect the blood, so the Social Security Administration will be looking at that system and the respiratory system, because lupus can affect the lungs. So the listing, which is medical listing 1402, they're looking for it to affect at least two or more organs or body systems. As I explained, how Social Security breaks the body systems down. You know, an organ would be the heart, another organ the lungs, the kidneys. These are just examples. The Social Security Administration is requiring that you have a moderate level of severity in at least one body system affected by lupus or one organ. So what does moderate mean? The Social Security Administration has a 5-point scale with no limitation on one end of the scale, then slight limitation, then moderate limitation, then a marked limitation, and extreme. So a moderate limitation is a fair ability to function independently, appropriately, effectively, and on a sustained basis. That's what moderate means. So once you meet the moderate requirement, you have to have repeated manifestations of lupus with at least two of the constitutional symptoms or signs for lupus, including severe fatigue, fever, malaise, or involuntary weight loss. So that's one way you satisfy the requirement for the lupus listing. And a lot of times we have a doctor check off a form that breaks down the lupus listing. Yes, no, does the person have a moderate level of severity affecting one organ or body system? Does the client have two of these symptoms that I just mentioned? Now there's another way you can meet the lupus listing. So instead of having two of the constitutional symptoms or signs, you have to meet the requirements of at least one marked level of severity in 3 categories. So we talked about how lupus has to affect 2 body systems, and it has to have a moderate level of severity affecting 1 organ or 1 body system. Then you need a marked limitation. So let's go over the definition of marked as we went over the definition of moderate. So it has to affect your functioning independently, appropriately, effectively, on a sustained basis, and you have to be seriously limited. So seriously limited in performing activities of daily living, which would include doing chores around the house, grocery shopping, driving, taking the MARTA in Atlanta, attending to your dressing and hygiene. So you would need a mark limitation in that area. Or you would need a mark limitation in concentration, persistence, or pace. So concentration is your ability to focus. So another definition for moderate, and you would have to be beyond this to be marked, is if you're unable to focus for a third of the workday, then you would have a mark limitation. If you're unable to sustain pace, in other words, you're seriously limited in your ability to sustain pace if you're on an assembly line and you couldn't keep up the pace. Or you're seriously limited in your ability to persist. In other words, you would have to take a lot of unscheduled breaks. So if you mark limitation in concentration, persistence, or pace, then that's another way you could meet the lupus listing in combination with the beginning of the listing that I've discussed. The last category would be a mark limitation in social functioning, and the Social Security Administration looks at whether or not you can get along with the public, coworkers, and supervisors. So would you be seriously limited in interacting with people in a work setting, or dealing with the public, including your friends? So if you do have a mark limitation in that area and you satisfy the first part of the lupus listing, you will be found disabled. Now there's another way you could be found disabled at step 5. That's beyond meeting the listing I just discussed. You would have to have a doctor address your exertional and non-exertional limitations, such as sitting, standing, walking, lifting, carrying, postural limitations such as bending and stooping. These are just examples. Or would you miss more than 2 days a month due to your lupus exacerbations? So if you have a doctor that addresses these limitations in a way that show you, for example, couldn't do sit-down work if you were on a sustained basis that's more than 6 hours a day, and you're a younger individual, age 50, then you could be found disabled at step 5. They also have grid rules. If you're limited to sedentary work with no transferable skills at age 50, you could be found disabled. If you have limitations from lupus limiting you to sit-down work. And then if you're age 55, if you're limited to light work, which is walking 6 out of 8 hours and lifting 20 pounds occasionally, 10 pounds frequently, you could be found disabled and no transferable skills from your work on this grid rule. So you could Google grid rules to see what I'm discussing. I'm just trying to give a broad overview. If you have any further questions, feel free to call us at 404-479-4431. We'll have our contact information at the end of this slide. We travel all over the United States. Some of our clients have moved through the years. Right now, due to the pandemic, we're just doing phone hearings and video hearings. So we'd be happy to help you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I will be doing other videos addressing other medical conditions, but lupus has been a very challenging condition through the years of 20 plus years of handling disability cases, because lupus cases go undiagnosed, as I said, for years. All right, thank you, and have a good rest of the evening.